It's February 26th, 2017, and another remarkable event is about to be uncovered by Ariel, Rebecca, and Ali, the Retrospectors.
Today in history back in 2017, the 89th Academy Awards reached what was meant to be its climactic moment, the awarding of that year's Best Picture. And the presenters Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway opened the envelope and announced that the winner was La La Land. Cue music and fanfare and the whole creative team making their way up onto stage. The only problem was that La La Land wasn't meant to be the winner.
Yeah, and when you watch the footage back, you can see exactly how this is playing out, because Beatty, as he looks at the card he's pulled out of the envelope, is visibly uncertain. And the reason he's uncertain is not that he suspected that Moonlight was supposed to win and it was La La Land, but because the card was the winner of the Best Actress award, which had gone to Emma Stone for La La Land. So when he was seeing Emma Stone La La Land, he was obviously confused, that not being a movie. So you see him take this very long pause, which Dunaway assumed was him trying to do a bit. So then he shows her the card, and you can tell he's trying to say, look, this can't be right. But she just glances down at it and says, La La Land. Obviously, she's feeling like this attempt at being funny has gone on too long and she wants to just bring it to a close. But he wasn't trying to be funny. He was trying to be like, hold on a second. I'm not quite sure this was right. But by then, obviously, it's too late because everyone's heading up onto the stage and nothing else happens until a stagehand comes and intervenes as the La La Land crew are starting to make their thank you speeches.
Yeah, Jordan Horowitz is giving his acceptance speech for La La Land, unaware that a mistake has been made, whilst behind him you can slowly see the sort of dawning realisation that something's gone wrong. And this, I mean, it's excruciating to watch, isn't it? It's excruciating for everybody, really. I watched it back today for the first time in 9 years. But this sort of motif of this isn't a joke keeps getting said again, partly because no one can quite believe that the Oscars, at the culmination of the event, the awarding of Best Picture, has balls this up. But also because of that moment with Beatty where no one was really sure whether that was a joke or not. Everyone has to keep saying it. Jimmy Kimmel says it into the microphone, who's hosting the awards. Horowitz says it from La La Land. People are saying into the microphone, this isn't a joke. Moonlight, you've won. It's not a joke, I'm not joking. And then the entire cast and crew of Moonlight come up. And it's excruciating. And Horowitz does a brilliant thing, actually, instinctively, which can't be how he was feeling. He says, I'm going to be really proud to hand this to my friends from Moonlight. Which, you know, he thinks he's just won the Oscar for Best Picture as the culmination of his career. And he's had all those emotions. Then he's been told he has, and he has to give it to someone else. And I think that is a very savvy way out of that situation, because almost anything else he could say would have been awkward. And actually, he somehow manages to put some grace back into this awful screw-up.
It is incredible. And I think particularly in light of where we are in Oscars history, you know, the 2017 awards took place against this really heightened scrutiny. You know, the Academy had just weathered back-to-back years of the #OscarsSoWhite controversy with criticism that nominees failed to reflect the diversity of contemporary filmmaking, the kind of contemporary filmmaking that Moonlight represented. And there was this broader sense that the ceremony itself was struggling for any kind of relevance. You know, it was increasingly long and self-serious and kind of nervously aware of its own failings and declining television ratings and all of that. And against this backdrop, you had Moonlight, which was this very small and intimate film about black identity and queerness, which had managed to emerge as a critical darling, while La La Land really did represent the old Hollywood, you know, this sort of nostalgic, crowd-pleasing side to what Hollywood used to represent. And so having these films even head-to-head was kind of a depiction of an industry that was turning at that time, or struggling to turn, like a big sort of awkward tanker ship. And I think that that moment really crystallized all of that in the most awkward way possible, except for the fact that, as you say, the La La Land team handled it with immense grace.
Yeah, and Barry Jenkins, the director of Moonlight, was very gracious in his acceptance too, because you imagine it's quite an uncomfortable position to be in, even though, of course, Moonlight was the rightful winner. He made time in his speech to praise the generous reaction that the La La Land delegation had shown. But you're right, it was against quite a racially charged, particularly backdrop, and you can't help but think if it happened the other way round, it would have been, I don't want to say much worse, but you know what I mean? Against that context, if Moonlight had seemed to have won and then it had been given to the far more, traditional white bread La La Land, that would have been seen as a really bitter pill to swallow. Whereas this way around, it turned into a little bit of a joke. In fact, Jordan Horowitz, the producer, actually made, he seemed to make his peace with it quite quickly. He said afterwards, I won the Oscar for Best Picture, I got to thank my wife and kids, and then I got to present the Oscar for Best Picture. Not many people can say that. That's a healthy attitude to take.
That's cool.
What had happened, it would later transpire, was that the wrong envelope had been handed to Beatty, and it contained a duplicate copy of the Best Actress winner card. And the reason that there was even a duplicate card in the first place is actually rooted in the Academy's safeguards to ensure that a mistake like this doesn't happen, which is that the auditing firm PricewaterhouseCoopers famously oversees a tallying of the votes and has done for years to ensure that they're accurate and independent. But part of this involves two senior PricewaterhouseCoopers representatives being present on the night, one at either side of the offstage area through the whole ceremony, ready to intervene instantly if there is any kind of mistake or if a presenter tries to, pull a prank. But each of those reps has their own stack of winner envelopes.
Which seems like a nightmare.
I know.
I don't know where this idea came from. So PricewaterhouseCoopers have been doing this at the Oscars since 1935, right? So they've got a long and storied history by this point of doing this.
And it hasn't gone wrong so far.
It hasn't gone wrong till now. And they were brought on board, interestingly, because Betty Davis was deprived of a Best Actress nomination in 1934, and Hollywood gossip was it was because Warner Brothers, whom she was signed to but hadn't made this picture with, were pressuring people not to vote for her. So in an attempt to show, no, the industry is completely open to fair competition, the Academy brought in Price Waterhouse, as it then was, to oversee the process in terms of how many votes there are and how they're counted. But over the decades, it had got ridiculously refined to the point where, these two people are locked in a room with two safes in it whilst they're counting the votes. The firm that prints the winners' names makes cards for all the nominees, and PricewaterhouseCoopers, the only people, those two executives, stuff the envelopes personally. Then a complete set goes into each of their briefcases, which they take to the Dolby Theatre in LAPD guarded SUVs, taking separate routes to the theatre, like a royal convoy. So they kind of give the impression of having thought of everything. But in doing that, in having this thing where there are duplicates, this is something that could happen. The wrong envelope could get handed without realising that you're at a different place in the pile to where you were before. So the idea was, if you've got an executive in each wing, then if an actor who's presenting the award happens to come on from the right rather than the left, there'll be an envelope to thrust into their hands. But it adds that extra level of complication where the executive who's looking after the scrutiny of who's won is instead thinking, oh shit, okay, so they took their envelope from stage left, so I've got to take out this one from stage right. And inevitably at some point, I think this would happen. It just took years to happen, and then it happened, and it happened in the most spectacular way with the Best Picture Oscar. I mean, of all the Oscars, if this was costume design, no one would remember. It's the last 5 minutes of the broadcast.
You can't help but feel that Cooper has a lot to answer for. This never happened during the Price Waterhouse alone era. But they did actually manage to trace it to a particular person. That was the PwC executive, Brian Cullinan. He had been the man who mistakenly handed over the duplicate envelope while he was distracted backstage. PwC then issued this big public apology within hours, and they said Cullinan has been removed from future Oscars duties. You're like, you don't say. I mean, what are you going to do? Send him back next year and see what else he can fudge?
To be fair, he would not make that mistake twice.
That's true. Actually, yes, probably from then on, he would be the most cautious backstage human in the world. But it's just funny, for an institution that really prides itself on precision and ritual, by which I mean the Academy, this era really was kind of mortifying and unforgettable. And as you say, it was because it was the best picture that was being announced at the time.
Worth saying what Brian Cullinan was distracted by the way.
The lovely ladies of Hollywood.
The lovely ladies of Hollywood.
Was it Fruity Starlets?
It was Emma Stone with her Oscar. So he tweeted and then later deleted a picture of Emma Stone in the wings with her new Oscar, just minutes before he gave Warren Beatty the wrong envelope. And very clearly, He was just getting so... He probably had a glass of champagne by this point. It's the last award, isn't it? It's the last bit you have to do. You've probably breathed a sigh of relief. Well, I've got through all the envelopes, it's the last one left. You're not looking. And he's posting on social media, being the star. Like him and his colleague, Martha Ruiz, on the red carpet with their briefcases, are already sort of tweeting pictures of them and all the celebs. And just forgot that his actual job, the reason he was there, was not to be distracted and make sure that the right envelope went out. It was this hugely embarrassing thing for PwC, whose reputation as well is about, soberly and straightforwardly, authoritatively superintending these kinds of scenarios without fault. I mean, this was just like terrible PR for everybody.
Maybe he was just like, screw it. Emma Stone's so lovely. I'm just going to give her Best Picture as well.
I think it was just, surely you're thinking he's looking at her being like, Emma Stone, Emma Stone, Emma Stone, like looks at the card. Emma Stone hands it to Warren Beatty. Like,
yeah.
Also, the fact that it's at the end, it's like, you must only have two cards
one left.
left.
Yes, yeah, I know.
Maybe give them the old double check.
Nowadays, apparently, a third balloting partner will sit with Oscar producers in the show's control room, in addition to the two balloting partners stationed either side of the stage.
It's going to make it worse.
It's going to make it worse, right? Well,
it was bad enough when they brought in Cooper. Now who are they going to bring in?
To hear more from us on this topic, join Club Retrospectors now. Unlock our weekly bonus bits at patreon.com/retrospectors.